Episode 4, Kenny Handkammer.
He said, jump out, get in the boot. So I said, oh, okay. So I got in the boot of his Alfa Romeo. He put a blanket over me and we went through. He parked up, opened
Boot
up.
riding.
Basically, he smuggled me in to my first F1 race.
Welcome to the Two Mechanics podcast. Kenny Handkammer and Mark Grain have 18 Formula One World Championships between them, have been in the Guinness Book of World Records twice. They have over 30 years of motorsport stories between them, not to mention the 40,000 beers. Cheers. What you say?
So, Ken, what are we saying?
Well, Mark, what do you want to say?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to say today. I'd like to say, how are you going to talk us through your early career, please, and how you got started in motor racing, and how we're on this call today, and how it all started for you.
Well, it all starts by lying and cheating like everything else, right? But joking aside, I'll try and get through this as quickly as I can. So, firstly, my older brother Harry Handkammer, who you know, was very successful in business as well as a brick car champion, multiple endurance race wins. He was my biggest influence. And at a very young age, I'm talking like the 70s now, very young.
There was steam powered cars, weren't they, in the 70s? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how complicated it was. And he was my biggest influence. So it was like one Sunday morning or something, and I was like young. I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. And he said, jump in the car, we're going to Silverstone. I said, oh, okay, never been there before. He was a regular. He went up there. He knew a lot of people in motorsports. And basically, jumped in the car, off we go up to Silverstone. And just before we got into the track, he pulled up, he said, jump out, get in the boot. So I said, oh, okay. So I got in the boot of his Alfa Romeo. He put a blanket over me and we went through. He parked up, opened
boot
up.
Riding.
Basically, he smuggled me in to my first F1 race. This wasn't a regular occurrence. This was a one-off. And that was me turning up at the track, being smuggled in by my brother. And what a great experience. And somehow we ended up in the pits. Harry was already friends with the likes of, God bless him, Ronnie Peterson and multiple other.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. I mean, I know your brother's history in the sport and everything, and I know that he still loves it to this day. And I think he's a member of the BRDC, and I think as well.
He was director.
That's right, yeah. And for everybody listening, the BRDC is the British Racing Drivers Club, and it's quite an honour to be a member, let alone reach the heights that Harry did in that organisation.
Yeah, they won't let the likes of us in.
We got our own exclusive club.
Yeah, and Ronnie lived very close, and he used to go up to his house and looked after his, some stuff for him, etc. So he lived very local, and they were good friends. And then, so that was a one-off. And then Harry continued to take me to other races, like the 1,000 kilometers endurance races, more F1, Brands Hatch, loads of other stuff, and wasn't getting smuggled in at that time. That was just a one-off.
So how old were you then? Was this in like?
What was it? We're still talking. We're talking 76, 77 ish, I guess. Maybe 78. I'll have to think about it. But yeah, so that was just got me in awe of anything racing. And leading on from that, my brother had a lawnmower retail service business based in High Wycombe, and I did a little bit in sales as a young kid, and people used to come and go, oh, this little kid's working, selling lawnmowers, and they didn't know my brother owned the business, and they used to say, oh, would you buy one? So, well, my dad's got one of these, and they go, oh, well, I'll have one of those. They didn't know that we would actually manufacture them out the back as well. So it was those days that you did a bit of everything, and I was involved in servicing them. So we service ride-on tractors all types of horticultural
Yeah.
stuff. And so leading on from there, there was this came up. I don't know how my brother found out. It was called the BLMRA, and it was a first time event, and it's called the British Lawnmower Racing Association.
I wondered if do you know what I didn't know this, and I wondered if this is where this was going. Yeah, keep going, Kenny. This is going to amaze people. This is
so this was actually near you. It's in Whisper Green in Sussex.
That's it. Yeah.
And it was this concept of you basically get whatever type of lawnmower you got, you take the blades off and you gear them to have a yawn. They were doing 50, 60 miles an hour over the bumps, right? It was a bit going on. Anyway, it started from 8 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning. So it was through the night. So my brother was like, yeah, okay, we're going to make a couple of these and we're going to have a team. And I started getting involved in helping build those machines as a mechanic. And I was probably 12 years old.
That's awesome, isn't it? A great way to start. Yeah. And it's incredible, isn't it? I think only in the UK could you have, because this is obviously going back some time. Could you have such a thing as a 12-hour lawnmower race with all these guys modifying all of these ride-on mowers to make them go really fast, make them safe, and then race against each other? It's fantastic, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's still going today. It's still a big thing. Yeah. There's multiple other people. I think Kimi Räikkönen did a race. Some of it bled over to the US at some stage. So anyway, we put this team together with a whole bunch of Harry's friends and work colleagues, etc. So this is my first experience of being a mechanic crew member, right, involved in anything in motorsports. I was going to be involved in the pit stops, blah blah blah, everything else, and I must post a couple of pictures later on. But have a guess who one of our driver lineups were.
I honestly wouldn't know where to begin. I mean, 1970s, and you've got a driver. Oh, crack! I don't know. I'd love it if it would be James Hunt, but I don't think it was. But who was it?
No, but it wasn't far off. So it was 1975 Le Mans winner Derek Bell, and this was 1978. Wow. So he'd already won Le Mans.
Multiple Le Mans winner now. Yeah.
I think he learned a lot from lawnmower racing because he went.
You're probably right. I bet you gave him some tips as well. Eh?
Obviously. And the other one just happened to be Sir Sterling Moss. And that was one of my first driver lineups as a mechanic. So not bad. Yeah,
it's a little bit of experience there. That's not a bad driver lineup, that one.
So we put the team together, went out, and Derek Bell, Sterling Moss won it. And that was the first 12-hour lawnmower race, and it went into Guinness Book of Records actually, which I remembered the other day. That it was for covering the most amount of miles on a lawnmower, which is like 250 miles or something, and it was insane. It's through the night.
Yeah,
the sun went down and it came up again, and it was dusty and gritty and bumpy, and it was just fun, right? And we all had a party afterwards. That's when I had a after party with Oliver Reed, the famous actor, which had a few beers with him, and I shouldn't have been really drinking, but that's something not for the air.
So I can see. So you've got all these celebrities, you've got all these famous drivers. You've done your first race and gone through the night and all of that atmosphere and not slept, which I'm sure at that age, probably the first time you've gone through all the way through the night without sleeping. So
100%. Yeah.
So I can see why you quickly got hooked.
Yes. And, I continued to... Yeah, that was one event. They didn't do it. I don't think they did it again. Sterling and they might have done a couple more. But then I started doing it myself because we had the machines there, and there's multiple other races through the season because that was like the main event. And so a friend of mine, Simon Broad, and a friend of ours, we continued to do a bit of that until we ventured into karting, etc. As we were racing. So
you moved into karting.
I did go to karting, and obviously I didn't have any money. Probably didn't have any actual skill either, but I did a bit of karting. I raced for a couple of seasons.
You were driving and you were preparing the karts yourself.
Yeah. Engine builds, which I loved, taking the engine apart and carburetors and tuning them and blueprinting them and doing it, finding out. I had a influence from people that used to help out because they just saw a young kid trying to, get on the bandwagon.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that was great. And so as I left school, my brother had, this influence on me that, he set me off on this trail, and I was just sort of in awe of racing. And my friend Simon Broad said to me, there's a company up the road that make sports cars for customers, company called Tiger Race Cars, and they're looking for people. And so Howden Ganley, ex-Formula One driver.
Oh, wow, yeah. There's a name from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He owned it. I was like, I've never been out of my comfort zone before. I've only ever worked for my brother, so I was a bit nervous about it. But anyway, long
So
story short,
you've left school now, and this is like the, shall we say, this is a big step. Is that
because
where we're at?
yeah, I mean, I left school. I worked in retail business for a bit. Then my brother set up another engineering company. Well, he taught me, and I learnt my skills to be a fabricator, a machinist, a tool setter. So I was hands on, and I ran this company for him as he was setting up multiple other companies. When I was only like 17 years old, and we were making 300,000 components a year. It was not a massive business, but it was a good business, and I was almost becoming a manager at that stage. And I was, and like I said, getting back to Simon said that here you are. There's an opportunity if you want to do something in racing to try and get into this company, Tiger Race Cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they made Le Mans cars. They made Sports 2000 chassis at the time. They'd stopped just doing the Formula Fords. So I went up there, had a chat with them, and they said, "I want to give you a go." And I started off as a fabricator. And I was fabricating the Sports 2000 chassis. So it was a complete flat sheet of aluminium, and you'd fold it, punch all the holes in it, glue it, rivet it, with all the jigs and tooling. And that's where I sort of was actually proper manufacturers building cars. And so then we ended up building the Le Mans car, the sports car, the C2 cars as they were at the time.
Yeah.
And they all competed, in the C1 races. So it was like 956 Porsches and customer cars and all sorts of other things. And I met some amazing people there. Brian Ireland was one of my mentors who's really rounded me into being professional and doing what's right. Another good friend of mine, Paul van der Loen, who we went on to work with at multiple other places. We started there.
Yeah. Paul's a mate of mine, of course, as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went as a fabricator, then I went to sub-assembly, so I built the chassis, and then Brian said, "Come over," because he's running sub-assembly. And I ended up, doing all the mechanical stuff, putting on the suspension, all the uprights, building uprights, which nobody does anymore. And just, building engines in gearboxes, all the hydraulics, the fluid, the water system, the bodywork, the doors, right? They were complicated cars. These were big cars.
Yeah.
An amazing experience. I learned so much. And
I think some of our listeners might have listened to a previous podcast, and the equivalent for me was this fantastic Formula 3 team called Bowman Racing, and just backing up what Kenny's saying there, that at the similar times in our career, we both worked for these organisations that made a lot of the stuff. We didn't just go out and buy stuff and assemble racing cars or whatever, or just buy a built car. Tigers were actually building racing cars to race themselves and to sell, and Bowman Racing were taking a standard Formula 3 car and extensive modifying. The point is this great experience at a key point in your career where you're learning all of these different skills. You're not just bolting a car together. So
no, it was everything,
Yeah, exactly, Ken. Yeah.
So as I was doing building these cars, from time to time, the customers would come in and just say, poke your head in, all excited. How's the car coming on? Is it on time, etc.? When the race is, blah, blah, blah. So I got to meet a lot of the customers. And I had the opportunity of Charles Ivy at the time, Porsche racing team. We were building one for him with a 956 engine in it. So it was a C1 engine in a C2 chassis, shoehorned into the back of it. So that was one of the things we were doing. And he said, look, we're going to Carl Army. We want you to come along because the car front to back, and can you come and help us out? And I'll pay you expenses and blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow, I've never even been out of the country at this stage. So my first flight was off to South Africa, to Carl Army. And it was a C1, C2 race one weekend off. And the following week was a C2 race. So it was a 3-week trip. And like I said, never been away before. And we went out there. We did the C1, C2 race. I don't know where we finished, or maybe we didn't finish. I can't remember. And then we had a week off. And it was like, this is unbelievable. I mean, I can't get my head around this. This is what it's all about.
This motor racing life, fantastic.
There's a whole group of us. We went off to, got on a minibus, went off to National Kruger Park and done all these fun things. And we're living it up. I'm like, at this stage, I'm probably 20 years old or something, 19, 20 years old. And I was like, I need some of this. So I got back to the factory, went back to Tigers because this was just like a one-off thing. Although I did end up doing a couple more races European races with them. So it was in between races, I was in the factory, and I was almost like a representative for the Tigers at that stage, and Howden gave me the opportunity and the flexibility to do that. So that was great for him and Brian to allow me to do that and get that experience. But it wasn't all as good as that, because
it never is.
Then I was
the dream can't last forever, can it?
No. So we built another car for a company called John McNeil Racing, and he decided he wanted one of those MG Metro 6R4 engines in it, which was in the rally car at the time, Group B car. Right? It was only 400 horsepower V6, but he said it's the way to go because it's fuel efficient, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, he's a customer.
Just on that, a little known fact that hopefully a little anecdote here. There's a Metro 6R4, the rally car, that V6 engine that Ken's talking about. There's one of those cars in the Williams Museum, and that's because Williams had a lot of input and design on that at the time. So the works, who would it have been, British Leyland or wherever it was at the time, had approached Williams to do a load of work. So if you ever get the opportunity, you're in the Williams Museum and you turn around and you see there's this 6R4 rally car sitting there. That's the reason why. So yeah. Anyway, you were saying, Ken, that V6 engine.
Yeah. So we put that in, assembled it, it went off. They wanted me to go and do Le Mans with them. So that was great. I've never done Le Mans. I'm in this business of doing endurance, building endurance cars. That'll be fun. Little did I know. So back then, 87 was the old track, right, with the horrible alleyway and all the steps going up and down to load things in and out of the pit box, which was tiny. You could barely get 2 toolboxes in there. And
so not much change from the Steve McQueen movie and what you see, the footage there, it was pretty much the same still when you were there in 87.
I had that alleyway out the back stinking of all sorts of horrible things, as you can imagine. And it was like, hey, right, roll your sleeves up, get stuck in. And basically, long story short, we worked hard as hell, with like really long before the race, because the race starts at 4:00 in the afternoon, doesn't it? Finishes, it's unsociable time, right? So you're going to be doing all nighter, and we were basically running second in class against Curia Cos, which I think, was.
I remember Curia Cos. Yeah, they were again famous racing outfit for many years, weren't they?
And Mike Wiles, who's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And they, and so we were running second. 22 hours in, crankshaft goes, boom, we're out.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how emotional that was.
22 hours in.
I mean, 2 hours in, great. You pack up, you
Yeah, back up.
go to the
At
boozer.
least you can go for a pint. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, so that was Le Mans over and done with. And I basically worked 65 hours of no sleep, and it was.
And if you think about it now, Kenny, endurance racing and the prep that a lot of certainly those big works teams, they have different crews that come in, and they have all of this nutrition and all of these things to keep you, like, the prep they do for the human beings, let alone the cars. And there was none of that winding back. Certainly when you did it then, and like some years later when I did it, it was you rocked up and you went to work, and then that was it.
Yeah, and the other thing with that particular layout they had back then is, so they used to signal out the back of the circuit. So there was another area that all the timing people used to put out the times, but the team manager at the time decided to allocate me with a job to every lap to phone. There was literally a phone in the back of the garage, and you rang it, and the team manager would tell me he'd show me the time, and it was always more or less the same time, 4 minute one or something, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I had to do that every single lap. So every 4 minutes I had to get on the phone. And so everybody else is lying around having like power naps and stuff.
Yeah.
And me and the team manager, the only
You're on the blower.
That every single second I just, that was it. And it just seemed insane that you literally had to pick up the phone. So yeah, same lap time again. Put it, and he just to swing them out on boards and swing them back in again.
Yeah, I again, like I say, I mean, this is before my time in racing, but I am aware that they used to do all that on the Mulsanne Straight, wasn't it? Is where the signalers were. Yeah.
So yeah, that was that, and I ended up continuing to work with doing those types of things with other teams, with Tigers. So I then had this urge to do Formula One, like you do. And it's like, how am I getting there? I knew a few people that worked in Formula One that were working at Tigers, etc. And I started knocking on people's doors. And one of them was Williams. And because what happened back in those days, the way you found out about jobs, on a Thursday morning, you'd rush out, get the Autosport, you go to the back page.
Back pages,
see what jobs are going, because there was no internet, right? Nobody advertised anything like that. It was old school, everything done by paper, and you had to apply in writing.
Or and maybe, it was like, to your point, I remember it. Cracky, that's a memory I'd forgotten about. It was in it was one of the things. You go out and buy your copy of Autosport, and then you'd immediately just go to the back page, you see what was going on, see what was out of there.
What's going on? So I applied to Williams. I had an interview with what's his name? The test team manager, the Weasel. What was his name?
Brian Lambert.
Yeah, Brian Lambert. God, he was a miserable bloke. Not just because he didn't give me a job, but he continued to be miserable for the rest of his life, I think.
He made my life miserable. I worked for him. Yeah.
And I tried Benetton. Everybody was close to me. And they all said, yeah, maybe, then no. And then I had a couple of interviews with Benetton, with Gordon Message and Nigel Stepney, a.k.a. the Punisher. And as you know, and
brutal man, Nigel. And again, just I'm not sure if you ever know this, but Brian, who we were just talking about, who was, like I say, Savage, and Nigel, they actually worked together. In some touring car sketch well before they both made it into Formula One, and I think from memory, I think they fell out then, and then they were never mates after that. But they were both brutal to work for.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So I was getting turned down, and my last interview was with Gordon and Nigel Stepney, and they said, okay, look, really, for you to get back in, if you want to come to Formula One, you need to work in the open wheeler. You need to be doing Formula 3000 or something else. Because I said, well, I disagree with that, because the cars I'm building are way more complicated. It's like, they're not having it. They want me to have experience of setting up and running, an open wheeler.
Yeah, open wheel, single seater race cars. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd already knew a character who's a bit of a legend that was worked in the 70s with Kerry Adams and Dave
Ah,
Luff.
Kerry. That's
Yeah.
great. Great,
And Kerry,
fantastic.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the Kerry for everybody listening was this just this superb guy. He's in retirement now, in south of France, and he moved into race car restoration, and he was good friends with Jody Scheckter and looked after Jody's cars for many years, and that workshop was in High Wycombe, Kenny, if you remember.
Yeah, right on the back of next door to Tiger. So I used to go around there and used to bump in. I love for used to come in to see Howden as well because they were friends. They all went, worked together. Kerry
That Dave
and
Luff.
Dave Luff. I mean,
Yeah.
they worked at McLaren together. They'd won championships with Emerson Fittipaldi and a whole bunch of legends back in those days. So at the time, I basically went round to see Kerry, and I was a bit like, I'm getting flicked out by everybody, and they want me to do its open wheeler stuff and etc. And I was going around there because I knew Jonathan Wheatley because I used to go in and out there. Jonathan Wheatley was there, restoring cars, working for Kerry Adams.
Yeah.
So we were around there having a cup of tea with Wheatley and Kerry and churning it over. And then Dave Luff came in, and at the time, Dave Luff was an engineer at a company called GA Motorsports, which is a 4-car Formula 3000 team. And I think they just got rid of somebody, they just sacked somebody, and they were looking for people. And I said, what? And I think Paul van der Leyen was already there, and he'd already put a word in that, Kenny would be interested in this. And because we kind of knew each other, and they needed somebody quickly, he basically gave me a go and basically offered me a job on the spot.
It's interesting what you're saying because also when we're talking about Autosport and the jobs that were advertised in the back pages of that magazine, the other thing in and around that time, before that time, and then for some years still after, it was really the amount of by word, people saying, "Oh, I know this guy." So and motor racing thrived on that and operated like that for many years, didn't it? You'd be,
Yeah.
"Oh, I
100%.
know him. He's a good guy. He's working at this team." Exactly what you're describing.
There was no reams of CVs and this. It was literally this
no.
fit the bill, and it was more about
was
your
it.
character than anything else we can teach you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was they already started the season, so I'm like, there were 3 races in, and I got the job. My first race was Silverstone, and which was great. My eyes were like beaming open with the noise of all these Cosworths going around all at the same pace, and it was a very different car, and it was phenomenal to me to think, well, okay, I'm on my next step. Let's see what we can do with this, and basically I finished off that season, and which was a bit of a horrible season because I was working for the team that was involved in Johnny Herbert's accident with Gregor Wojtek at Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch, yeah.
Yeah, which was pretty horrific. But
careful, eh?
Yeah. So basically finished off the season, Formula 3000, and
and I think there at GA, if I'm right, you were working with some people that I went on to work with at Williams when I was first finding my feet. Yeah, so
yes, I was going to get onto that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So basically, at the end of the season, the normal was they laid everybody off and try and pick you up again the following year because there was the shutdown season was because they want cars that you just buy a new car and you'd set up you'd go racing again with like 2 months to go, so they didn't need to keep people on. And that was kind of the normal back then. They keep maybe 1 or 2. So anyway, we were a 4-car team, so it was a lot of us. So a lot of us got laid off. And I'm like, okay, maybe can I go back to Tigers? Yeah, Howden opened the door again, and Brian, fantastic. So I've got a job at least.
Yeah, that was good of him.
Yeah. So And then suddenly, all around me, as the following year opened up, I'm hearing like, oh, Paul van der Leyen, he's got a job at March, F1 team, Adrian Newey, and then there's Paul West, Bob Davis, Dave the
Yeah.
Bastard, Bob. They
Dave
went
the
to Williams,
Bastard.
and then Bob
That's
Bushell.
always been one of my favourite nicknames, that one. And
Yes,
and you just walk up to her, morning bastard. We go, all right, Grainy.
yeah,
It's
it was
fucking
standard,
brilliant.
yeah. And Bob Bushell, aka Bacardi Burping Bob,
Bacardi Bob, yeah.
he got a job at Onyx, the new F1 team. So I'm feeling a little bit left out here. I'm like, well, am I a chopped liver? So I'd already told Benetton that I'm available after the season. They're like, oh, we haven't got anything yet, but we might have something later on. And there you go. I was sort of back working at Tigers, happy doing that. I've got something right, and I'm still in the mix. So later on, probably about April or May. No, it was before then. I heard from Benetton, and they had there's going to be a job coming up on the test team active car, because we had a completely different test team for the active car. I know
Yeah,
what that was all about.
yeah.
And so after a few weeks, I got in. I started in like April the 5th, 1989. And that's where I met Dave Redding, Otis as he's known as, because not because his name was Dave Redding, just because he actually lived in Reading. And came very close with Dave. We worked on the same car, active car, great experience. And come the end of 89, Stepney wanted me to go on the race car with Max Flukinger. And you know what the reputation of Max Flukinger back then and still today. He was like Swiss German, very strict. Yeah. And you couldn't make any mistakes.
Mark, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, again, let's go for a beer. One, and then
great guy.
Yeah. So I ended up working on Alessandro Nannini's car, which I was over the moon, because I was a huge fan of Nannini in sports cars. Because when I was doing sports cars, he was also racing in F1, but he's also driving for Lancia. So I was a massive fan. So for me to work on his car, I was a front end mechanic, strapping him in.
You made up, yeah.
I was like a dog with two dicks. I was terrible. It was amazing. So, and Stepney wanted to put me on the front jack. So I was like, oh, okay. All right, well, I've done front jack in before in 3000, so I was like, okay, I'll have a go at this. And of course, back then there was no pit lane speed limit, right? They just came in as fast as they possibly could.
Nice. Violent is the only way is the best word I can think of to describe what it was like. It was just it's just the violence of the car coming in that fast and having to quickly like gather around it, and get the
things
job
coming
done.
in, it's locking up and switching all over the place, and that was and you've got it up on the jack, and he's revving it like crazy, like basically saying get out of the way and let me down. And I had a little trick there where when the car came in, I used to put one foot on the jack bar and took my other leg off the floor, and I'm then part of the jack. So because they never stopped in the right place, right? You'd go back and be like a foot, 2 foot long. And eventually when it stopped, I'd put my foot down and lift it up. So that was the only way I could think about dealing with it. Otherwise, I'm just going to get run over all the time.
Yeah.
So that was obviously an experience I enjoyed for like 9 years, I think.
I think when you're talking about that, again, kind of to build out that picture, what you're saying, I think, is you wait for the car to come in. It was just that when the car was just about to hit the front jack, you took your foot off the floor, and then the driver just bashed you backwards, and then by the time it all calmed down and stopped moving is when you activated the jack, and then you lifted the car up off the ground.
Yeah, basically I was part of the jack when it hit me. I just put one foot on the jack, and it rolled. When the car eventually stopped, I'd put my next foot down and lift up.
It eventually stopped.
I continuously had black toes for quite a few years.
Black toes.
And then when the pit lane speed limit came in, it was almost frustrating. It's like, God, come on, get on with it. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
Hurry up. This is boring now.
Stood there waiting for it, tapping your feet and whistling a tune until it arrived.
Yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah. So I got into Formula One, and I'm now at Benetton, uh, working with Max, and all doing okay. I mean, Benetton wasn't a top team then. They were lucky if they were fifth ish, and in um, you know, but I'm back in the pit lane. I'm working with my old friends, right? I'm working with alongside, Paul Van der Leyen, Paul West,
Yeah.
Bob Davis, David Bastard, Bob Bushell, and all these other guys who we work with. So, you can imagine when we all flew out on flights together, catching up together, and when we could was quite eventful at times.
Yeah,
And
and of course the Brabham team was still in operation at the time, and they had
and
they
Lotus
had quite a reputation, eh?
and Lotus.
And Lotus. Oh yeah, my God, two sheds, all of those fellas. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And of
Colin
course, we
Watts.
wanted to outdo all of them.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was quite a task.
yes. There were some tough guys in and around the Formula One at that time, and
Yeah,
um, and of course, what this is now, this is where our well, the years you're talking about now is only a year or so later after you joined Benison. Two years would have been. Um, that's when I met you. That's when we first
yeah,
met up and started working together. So
yeah. And in 1990, shortly after I started at Benetton, um, still looking for more people, and I recommended to Nigel Stepney to give Jonathan Wheatley a go.
yeah,
So I basically gave Jonathan Wheatley's intro into Formula One,
yeah, he's breaking the Formula One. Yeah, I remember. I
and
remember. I remember Jonathan joining.
we
He
worked
was
on the
shortly
same car
after me.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all worked on the same car together. It was me, as Max, myself, and Jonathan,
yeah,
and we went through. Got our first win in '92, Belgium, which was outstanding. I mean, to get your first win when you've never won anything is it's like, wow, this might not ever happen again.
yeah.
So, and we'd also been, Tyrrell was still in the pit lane at that time.
They were.
These
Yeah,
guys that were working at Tyrrell back in the Stewart days, the Jackie Stewart days, that hadn't won a race
never won a Grand
since
Prix.
since
Absolutely.
Jackie Stewart, like
Yeah,
25 years.
yeah. And
So
I remember. It might have been. It might have been Bob Busher you mentioned earlier on. It might be Bob that kind of opened my eyes to that line of thinking, and he said, you can work in this sport, not even in Formula One. You can work in different categories, and you can go for years and years and years and never win anything. So, you and I have worked for some great teams, and we've got the photographs, and we've got the trophies on the wall, the whole bit. So it's yeah, for everybody listening, honestly, the feeling of euphoria when you've gone through a load of stress and late nights and all of that stuff and what Kenny's talking about here, and to actually get race wins and of course in Formula One Grand Prix wins is absolutely awesome. But it's not to detract from all the different types of racing. Winning's
no,
winning. It's just
yeah,
it's what
and
we're what we're
if
all
that
in
was the
it for.
last, yeah, if that was the last one, I'd have been happy with that. I'd achieved something. I'd
Yeah,
won a race in Formula One, and that was Belgium in '92, and still had Michael at that time. We were getting half decent. I think in '93 we won Portugal. That might have been because Patrese might have shunted in front of me. But anyway, yeah,
well,
we won Portugal and we finished fourth in the championship. So that was pretty good.
yeah, it's progress, eh?
That was pretty good. We had like nine podiums, 50 odd points. That was unbelievable for us. That was a big step forward. And then we roll up into the controversial year 1994.
And I think 1994 is worthy of its own podcast, its own dedicated time. There's so much
Yeah,
went on in that year. So thanks, Ken, for talking us all through your start and how you got going and how you got rolling. Hopefully, everybody that's listening, that's the both of us. That's giving you an introduction and how we both got started and how we're both on this podcast today, and our friendship and where that all started as well. And well, I know it's early with you, Ken, in California, but for me,
Yeah. Well, I hope that wasn't.
it's time for me to get down the pub, I've got to say.
Yeah. Well, I hope that wasn't too boring, but it is what
awesome.
it is. What it is. If you want the truth.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Okay.
great stuff, Ken. Thank you very much, and yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and
Yeah, thank you for the new followers we've got, and we appreciate everybody taking the time to hear us babble on about our old sketchy days.
And we should wish everybody. This is going to be our last episode before Christmas, so we should wish everybody Merry Christmas, and we're going to be back before the new year, and certainly we're back in the new year, and of course we've got a whole nother seasons of racing across Formula One and all the rest of it in 2026. But for now, Merry Christmas, stay safe, everybody, and thanks for listening.
Likewise, thank you. Bye.
Bye.